Hello, namaste, everyone. One more time here, me, Leknath Gautam. Uh, the issue of the day is the Democratic primary election, where the finally everything has been settled down, and it has become two main race: Bernie Sanders versus Joe Biden. Because today Elizabeth Warren has dropped out from the race, and there is another candidate, Tulsi Gabbard, but she is not front runner, so it really doesn't make a big difference. That's why now is two main race, and there is a question around the people what Elizabeth Warren can do, what happened to her campaign, if she's gonna endorse somebody or not. These kind of questions are in the politics right now. Elizabeth Warren, looking at her past, her agendas, her issues, she is far more closer to Bernie Sanders than Joe Biden. Naturally, she is supposed to endorse Bernie Sanders because she is the voice for Medicare for all. She is the voice for free college education. She is against big pharma companies. She is against Wall Street making all the money, while the rest of the world, rest of the country is struggling. She is against the income inequality in this country. So that's her core message in the campaign. So if she wants to continue her influence or her agenda to be go forward, she definitely has to endorse Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders also has to extend his hand to her to bring her within himself. So, if Elizabeth Warren endorses Bernie Sanders, most likely there will be a very very competitive race going forward in upcoming days. But if she keeps quiet, some of her supporters, most of her supporters would go to Bernie Sanders, and but some of her supporters would go to Joe Biden as well. Then both Joe Biden's uh, chance of victory will be possible. Right now, looking at the map and looking at the context going on around the country, looks like Bernie Sanders has a very, very harder chance of getting the majority of vote, majority of delegates, but Joe Biden still has some chance. But still, there is a very, very possible that nobody gets the majority, and then obviously they're gonna go to the contested convention in July in Wisconsin. So, what is the future of Elizabeth Warren is the today's main question. What she is gonna do, how she is gonna align herself in the primary process. That is the main question. And looking at her past, we definitely conclude that she has to go to Bernie Sanders, and if she goes to Joe Biden, her legacy will be destroyed because Joe Biden has stood for everything that she has not stood for. Or means Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden has always against her issues like universal health care. Because today's main issue for the voters, main concern for the voters is healthcare. So, although she was kind of moderate, she was trying to be more acceptable to the centrist group, but still she supports the Medicare for all. So she must be uh, in the Bernie Sanders camp, not in Biden camp. And so when these two old guys go to the debate and go to the primary in coming weeks and days, it will be very interesting how Joe Biden performs, as he is the last hope of the establishment of the Democratic Party, who say that Bernie Sanders is too left. He has his ideas are radical, and I don't know. Nobody knows how Joe Biden will perform one in one with Bernie Sanders, and if ever wins the nomination, how the performance will be with Donald J. Trump. It doesn't look very good since his past is kind of murky, it's not very clean, very clear. He's been in Washington for a long time. He has taken money from like almost everybody. So he's kind of, compared to Donald Trump, he's way better. But if you go to the Democratic field, his history is like, some kind questionable. So, Donald Trump will hit him everywhere, including the Ukrainian problem. His son has worked with the Ukrainian energy company Burisma for $50,000 a month for without any experience. So that is always questionable. And while he was vice president, that was believed in some part of the country that his influence was used to get his son be able to make that much money without having any experience. So going forward, even Biden wins the nomination, I don't know how hard Bernie Sanders is gonna hit him in these issues. But if ever he wins the nomination, it is gonna be very hard for him to save himself from attacks from right and left and everywhere. So finally, we're in the race of two people. Let's see how this plays out. Hopefully, Elizabeth Warren will support Bernie Sanders, and then the liberals will consolidate their votes, and centrist people, the moderates will already have consolidated their votes. So there will be a two-lane race, and then soon, very soon, after Michigan, after Pennsylvania, after Wisconsin is over, if Bernie Sanders doesn't pick up those states, his game will be over, most likely. So if Bernie Sanders wants to compete all the way to the convention, he has to do very well in these states, Midwestern states. So